How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Toolbox Murders. This is from 1977, directed by Dennis Donnolly, and stars Cameron Mitchell. We also have Pamelyn Ferdin and Wesley Eure. And this movie is a pretty fun example of a true crime-styled proto-slasher. Proto-slashers were a really fun period in history between when Psycho got the ball rolling and Halloween really established what a slasher was. There was a lot of films trying to figure it out. You had giallo going really strong in Italy, think films like A Bay of Blood, and then you had goresploitation in America, think films like Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Feast. But there was also a third popular path for proto-slashers to go down, and that was films inspired by true crime. I mean, a big example of this would be the Ed Gein-inspired Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that got a lot more abstract and over the top than most true crime-styled proto-slashers did. This is a really good example of that particular subgenre. It's a really cool, grimy little film, and while it is definitely not perfect, it really does have some interesting and intense moments, and I can definitely recommend this, especially as a little sample of a true crime proto-slasher. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what's the movie about? No spoilers, but the idea here is you have this sleepy little Californian apartment complex. However, a killer shows up. He's got a long black trench coat, he's got a ski mask so you don't know who he is, but most importantly, he has a toolbox full of tools, or in his case, a wide array of murder weapons. He starts picking off people who he sees as immoral, literally breaking into their apartments and going on a rampage. However, for one girl, he does something a little bit different. He actually kidnaps her and takes her with him, and then you'll get a large part of the story being that girl's brother trying to figure out who's the killer and can he save his sister in time. And I have to say, the first third of this movie is absolutely classic. That's when the killer's really wreaking havoc. The scenes are grungy and intense and pretty prolonged. There's some really good sequences in here. For example, in this movie, you get the classic nail gun scene. A really cool scene with this redhead girl being chased around her apartment, nails flying through the air, one causing a hanging plant to explode, and overall a really good prolonged sequence. Not just a kill, a sequence. And you also get this movie's atmosphere. You get this distant and indifferent radio playing a kind of ironic song about love while all this death is going on. Not only ironic music, but showing the idea that the world is moving on and not paying attention to this. And also, during this chase sequence, occasionally cutting back to this girl who died in the past that serves as a killer's motivation. Honestly, things get a little bit artsy here, and it's better put together than you think. I love the killer's cool design with his mask and his toolbox, but also the gimmick that he uses a different tool to kill each one of his victims is a really interesting and creative idea, and you wonder what he's going to pull out of his toolbox next. Honestly, the first act of this movie is really solid classic stuff, but that's where we get the difference between this being a true crime styled proto-slasher and what slashers would end up being later. Slashers later on would fully embrace the cat and mouse chase sequence. They would realize the kills were the most interesting part of the movie, and they would focus the movie on them. However, for this movie, most of the action is literally in just the first act of it. Then it kind of abruptly shifts, and a lot of the energy sadly goes down, which is a huge flaw with it. I mean, you get the brother running around trying to solve the mystery, but the brother wasn't super well established in the first act. He was barely in it, so I don't really care for him super much as a character, and the mystery, I mean, it's not super involved. In fact, it's really easy to guess who the killer is. In fact, they straight up tell you with the picture on the back of this box, which makes me wonder if we're even supposed to not know know who the killer is. But they tell you really early, and to be fair, there's some really good scenes with the killer and the kidnapped girl, and you get a lot of his psychology, and you also get a commentary about the tumultuous cultural landscape of the 1970s. There are some good moments in the second and third acts, especially when things do heat up a little bit, but overall, there's lots that really doesn't amount to that much. I mean, for example, there are these subplots like the kid's mom being a single mother and not sure how to process this because her life is already so stressed, and like the detective trying to solve the mystery. But honestly, both those subplots really don't go anywhere. And yeah, I really do wish that they had done a better job balancing their plot structure, introduced the kid as your lead character much earlier on, and spread out the cat and mouse chase sequences throughout the film instead of just at the beginning. But overall, there are some intense moments towards the end, and I in particular really do like that final ending visual. Again, also spoiled on the back of the box. I mean, gee, Blue Underground, what are you doing here? So overall, it does play out well enough, but it never gets as strong as its first act was. So yeah, I don't know, if I was just doing a super casual rewatch, I might just rewatch that first act. Overall, I do like the Toolbox Murders. It is a really good movie, but yeah, it's one that I can't deny. It does have some flaws with the pacing. And there's also some 1970s clunkiness in here, like the police just letting random citizens march through their crime scene with the bodies still lying there, or the one girl dancing by her window in her underwear because I guess people did that in the 70s, and a weird little scene where the kid drives off with his car door not fully latched and it just pops open, and you can tell that wasn't intended, but hey, film is expensive and why not? Just leave that in the movie. So yeah, Toolbox Murders, flawed but fun, a really cool slice of 70s style filmmaking with some really cool and intense sequences, but yeah, it doesn't keep the momentum going the whole thing, and that is a huge flaw with it. And I would be curious, what if you remade this and did the balancing issue right, but when Tobe Hooper had his chance, he did more of a straight up reimagining of it, but that was really fun, and we'll probably get to that next week. Anyway though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my slasher movies playlist. If you guys want to see me talk about more movies kind of like this, click right here to see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.